It's officially the All-Star break, and as of right now, the Sixers have solidified their spot for the first seed. It's been a really successful first half, so I decided to make this video giving out player grades for every single player. I kind of want to do this and then do it again at the end of the year and kind of compare. I think it might be interesting, and it's also a chance to talk about the team and how they've been able to be the first seed. In this video, I'm going to talk about every player on the roster, but I'm going to skip a couple because they just haven't played really at all or any significant minutes, and it's just kind of weird to give them a grade. I can't really even think of anything to say about some of them. I'm going to say Tony Bradley, Terrence Ferguson, Paul Reed, Vincent Poirier, and Isaiah Joe. Those are guys who have played a little bit at times, other times haven't played at all. I just don't really have much to say about them. I will give a shout out to Isaiah Joe, though, because I think he is really, really good, and I think he should be playing a lot more. He is down in the G League right now, which a lot of Sixers fans got mad about, but I do believe that they did that just so he can play with the team during the All-Star break, so he's not just sitting around doing nothing. So actually, I do like that decision because it gets him some play time, but I do wish he would play a little bit more. But now we're going to get into the rotational players. First up, we have Mike Scott, who is having, in my opinion, a pretty disappointing season. I'm going to give him like a D for the season. I mean, he just hasn't been very good. He's also been injured a ton. I really wish Mike Scott could get back to where he was 2 years ago when he first got traded to the Sixers. He was just on fire from three, and obviously that's not going to happen all the time, but he just needs to be a little bit better. Although I will give him credit because for the past week or so, he has seemed a lot better. I mean, he's still not doing a ton, but he's hitting some shots, and I really, really liked him in the Pacers game. He was just a lot of good hustle and effort, and I do appreciate that, but I can't give him much here. Mainly due to the injuries. So hopefully in the second half, if he doesn't get traded, which I think he might, but if he doesn't get traded, hopefully in the second half he can step up his shooting a bit. Next up, we have Matisse Steibel, and I'm going to give Matisse a C+ for the year so far. I love Matisse's defense. It's incredible the things he can do, but offensively he's just not giving me enough at all. And I understand that's not his game, and I can completely accept it, but it's one thing to be not great. It's another thing to literally give the team nothing offensively. His shooting has really seemed to go down numbers-wise ever since when he first started playing, his threes were actually pretty decent. They are 30%, and it was like, wow, like that's incredible. He's playing this level defense and 30% from three. But it's just gone down ever since, he had an injury his rookie year, like around Christmas, and ever since then he just has not been shooting the same. And defensively, I mean, he's the same as he has always been, which is elite, but unfortunately, he just isn't giving me enough offensively. And part of that is this team. They already struggle shooting, so when you have him out there, it amplifies it. Tyrese Maxi is a player that's pretty hard to grade because his minutes have been really up and down. There's been times where he's first off the bench. There's been games where he doesn't play at all. There's been games where he's been, kind of in between. It's very hard to grade him. Overall, I would have to say like probably a C. Obviously, he had that incredible game against the Nuggets when we only had 7 players, and he put up like 40. But he's been very inconsistent. And again, I feel weird grading this because he is a rookie, and also his minutes have been so inconsistent. But overall, he hasn't been doing much. Ever since that Nuggets game, it feels like he really has not been doing almost anything. But I don't think that's his fault necessarily. And also, the shooting concerns have shown to be true, which isn't surprising. He's a point guard that plays for the Sixers, so obviously he's going to have shooting troubles, but it has affected his game, and it has affected his minutes for sure. Furkan Korkmaz is a player that drives me absolutely crazy. He is very, very inconsistent, and there's some games where he just doesn't miss a shot, and there's other games where he literally scores 0, and it feels like there's never any in between with him. And I respect him. I don't want to like attack him, but he just drives me crazy. He doesn't give really anything to the team other than the shooting. So when he's off, you really feel it. With Matisse, we mentioned how his shooting was pretty inconsistent. But if Matisse isn't shooting well, he's going to defend at an elite level. If Furkan isn't shooting well, he gives us absolutely nothing. He has been playing pretty decent for the past week or so, but he's just too inconsistent for me. I can accept that, he's going to have some games where he scores 20, and obviously that's not going to happen all the time. But in the games where he doesn't score 20, I need more than like 2 points. Like, we need an in-between here, you feel me? And it's something that does very much annoy me, and I think the Sixers should explore giving Isaiah Joe Furkan's minutes, but that doesn't seem to be something that Doc is too interested in at the moment. Shake Milton has been really fun to watch this year. I would probably give him a B, a little bit of inconsistency, a little bit of injuries. I think Shake Milton is really good, but I do have some issues with his shot selection at times, although part of that is on Doc Rivers, who puts out these all-bench lineups, and essentially the only offense is Shake because he's out there with Mike Scott, Steibel, Dwight Howard. None of those guys can make a shot for themselves or anyone else, and so it puts Shake in a really strange position where he kind of just has to put it up because if he doesn't, no one else will, and if they do, it's not going in. And I think it has really hurt his minutes and it's hurt his stats. Early in the season, the bench was playing a lot better, and he was a Sixth Man of the Year candidate. That's kind of fallen off now. He's still a great bench player. He's huge for this team. He's won us a lot of games. And another problem Shake has been having is the three-point numbers are down a bit, but he is still scoring a very high level for a bench player. He helps the team a lot, and I'm really happy with his play this year so far. For Dwight Howard, if you had asked me this question a week ago, I would have given him a pretty low grade. Now I'm probably going to bump it up to a C+. Dwight Howard was really a bit of a struggle to watch early this year. The two main things that drove me crazy about Dwight early on was, number one, he was fouling way too much. And I'm not talking about attempting a block and getting a bad call. I'm talking about offensive fouls, just very bad fouls defensively where he's not really doing anything. And to me, he didn't seem like the guy on the Lakers last year. And I didn't know if that was because, I do watch a ton of basketball, but I don't watch every game of every team. That's impossible. But I do watch every game, every second of the Sixers. And so I wondered if maybe he was like this last year, but I just didn't necessarily see it because I wasn't watching every second that he was a Laker. Now I'm watching every second that he was a Sixer, so I thought maybe I'm noticing more. But in the last week, we have seen the Dwight that the Lakers had last year, and it's been huge for the Sixers. All around, Dwight is just playing at a much higher level. He won us the game last night against the Jazz, which with his run, his 6-0 run, I believe it was, by himself. And he was also great against the Pacers. This is the Dwight that I thought we had signed in the offseason, and I'm so happy to see him playing better. That grade may seem a little harsh, but that's just because I was a little unhappy with it early on this season, but he's really picked it up recently, and I hope he can build on this momentum because it would help us out a lot. Now we're on to the starters, and I'm going to get it out of the way and talk about Danny Green. Now I want to say first off, Danny Green is one of the most absurdly disrespected players in the league right now from a simple standpoint of people think he genuinely is trash and has always been trash. Like, casual viewers who only watched the finals last year think that he's only that and he has only ever been that. I see people consistently say Danny Green is not a good shooter. Danny Green has never been a good shooter. People erased a decade of his career after one finals series, and I think it's absurd. With that said, though, Danny is not the same player that he used to be, and he can be very frustrating to watch. I've been really like up and down with him. You know, I completely recognize that he's going to go through slumps. Literally every shooter does. It's impossible to hit every shot every game. You're going to have nights where he hits almost all his threes. You're going to have nights where he misses them all. That's just how it goes. And early on in the season, I defended him when he was shooting poorly because I understood from a basketball standpoint, he helps our spacing so much. And there are many, many times where Danny Green ends up wide open on plays, and that is incredible for this team. I also recognize that Danny Green is the vet of the team, and so even when he was shooting kind of poorly, I was always like, well, he's doing this, he's defending, he's doing this, he's a vet. But there's also been games where he's not playing smart basketball. And if you're going to tell me, well, he might not shoot well, but he's the vet, but he's consistently making the most mistakes out of anyone on the team, then what is he giving me as a vet then? And defensively, he has not been what I thought he was. Once again, maybe this is like the Dwight thing where I wasn't watching every Lakers game, so I didn't notice it, but he has not been defending that well this season. He's consistently been getting blown by smaller guards. They're just flying by him like it's nothing. A great example would be go watch Dennis Schroeder in the Lakers game. Dennis was doing one dribble and just flying to the basket, and Danny just couldn't keep up. I think his age is really starting to show again. Maybe he was like that last year, but from the Lakers games I watched, I never felt that way. But when I watch him now, I feel like he's getting beat a lot. And so when I say I'm giving him a C minus, that's not me saying like, he's only shooting this percentage, he sucks. That's not me, because I recognize how he helps us in other ways, but he's not really helping us in other ways in the sense that I thought he would. And he is the most likely player, I think, on this team to get traded, just from the standpoint of like, well, in terms of like the rotation players, because his contract and because of how he's been playing. And overall, I just feel like I'm very up and down. There's some nights where it's like I feel like we need to keep him around, and there's other nights where I feel like we can't get rid of him fast enough. And he's just had a very strange season overall. I wouldn't mind keeping him for the vet stuff, for the good spacing and all that. But if there was a move to be made for him, I absolutely think it should be made, and I do think Daryl will make it if that move appears. Now, with all this said about Danny, though, if you asked me to go back in time, would I still make the trade for him? Yes, literally 100 times out of 100 times, I'm making that trade. The trade for Danny literally saved this franchise from a money standpoint with the Horford deal off the books. So I would absolutely still make the deal. I have no issues with it at all. Just thought I should point that out. And the other major acquisition by the Sixers in the offseason was Seth Curry, and that one has been a no-brainer, huge win for the Sixers. Seth Curry has been very, very good for this team. Overall, though, I am giving him a B, just for the inconsistency, and a lot of it is not his fault. I think getting COVID really, really affected him at a deep level, and I'm really, really excited for him to have this All-Star break, just have a week off, rest up, and come back, because if you look at his play before that Nets game when they announced it, go look at his numbers before that and after. It's you might not even think it's the same player if someone showed you those two numbers next to each other. And it is the inconsistency, and sort of like what I was saying about Furkan. It's not like, some nights he has 20 and some nights he has 15, right? No, we're talking like some nights Seth has had 20, and then he's had multiple games in a row where he has literally 0 points, and that just cannot happen for a starter on a team that wants to win a championship. You can't be just scoring no points. But obviously, that was an extreme scenario. Like I said, I think getting COVID really has messed with him, and I really look for him to have a huge second half. And this trade has been an enormous win for the Sixers. Josh Richardson is not having a good year at all. And honestly, when we made that trade, I did not know that Seth could drive and dribble the way that he does. I don't know if he could, honestly. I think he may have added that because I always saw him as just a pure shooter, and that's really all he does. And I had no issue with that, but that's just what I thought. And it's pretty amazing seeing how much he's improved. And obviously, Josh is still a better defender, but honestly, I haven't felt that Seth has hurt us that much defensively, honestly. I am worried about the Nets. You know, in the playoffs, if we want to make the finals, we're going to have to play the Nets. And when you look at this team, it's like, you know, Seth is going to have to guard. He's going to have to guard Harden or Kyrie, basically, because Ben's going to be on KD, Danny's going to be on Kyrie or Harden. So, like, it's very a scary thought, honestly. But I don't feel he's been that bad defensively. Certainly not bad enough to the point where it's making his offense not mean as much. He has been incredible for this team, and it was an amazing trade to make. And I'm so happy he's on a long-term contract, and he'll be here for the next couple years. I can't wait to see him keep developing, and like I said, hopefully get more to his old ways at the start of the season after getting the rest up. Next up, we have Tobias Harris, and I'm going to give him an easy A. I've been so happy with Tobias this year. I have to give a lot of credit to Doc, but we also have to give credit to Tobias because he has changed his mindset. For people who didn't watch every game of the Sixers last year, I'm jealous of you, and also I'll let you know that a big issue with Tobias was never that he was missing shots or that he wasn't playing well. He was just not making the right decisions for the team. He needed to shoot more threes, and he needed to shoot more off the catch instead of pump faking, dribbling, pulling up for a mid-range, even though he's very good at that. It's not what the team needed, and the same can be said for this year. And again, I don't know who you want to give the credit to, Tobias, the coaching staff, probably a little of both, but they've completely changed how he plays. He's a much quicker decision maker like he was in LA, and it's the best basketball he's played, not just with the Sixers, but his entire career, even better than that year in LA that he had before he got traded here. And I honestly still wish that he would actually shoot even more threes. I think he can. I see no reason why he doesn't, other than he just doesn't seem comfortable with it, but I can't complain. He has done everything that we needed him to, everything that we've asked him to do. Also, he has vastly improved his defense. His defense was never bad, but it was never something that you would notice. Like, I never found myself saying, wow, that was really good defense. Sort of like he was never bad, but he wasn't impactful. Now there are moments where I feel him impacting games. There are moments where someone gets a switch onto him and it's not just instantly getting beat. You know, he holds his own against really high-level offensive players this year. And overall, there's genuinely nothing bad I could say about Tobias. He's averaging 20 points. He has insanely efficient numbers, improved his defense. He has been near perfect for this team. There are still a couple games this year where he's just really kind of had a stinker. I do still wish that we could just kind of avoid those, but I guess that is impossible. I'm being a little harsh now. I'm just nitpicking. Overall, he has been perfect for this team this year. Finally, we have our first All-Star, and that is Ben Simmons. I'm going to give his grade an A-, and the main reason I say that is because, you know, early on in the season, he was very, very bad. It was very concerning, actually. He just wasn't aggressive enough. He wasn't playing the basketball that he had played last season, and it was very concerning, and I do think the Harden rumors has something to do with it. He can say it didn't affect him, but it did, and that's fine. It affects every player. It is in your mind. You're thinking about it. It's impossible not to. And after that trade, everything just seemed to change. I should say after the trade that didn't happen, it seemed like everything changed. He just is far more aggressive. His free throw percentages is going up. He's playing near perfect basketball. He really is. And, of course, he's doing what he always has done, which is lock up the other team's best player. I feel he is the Defense Player of the Year. So far, anyway. Obviously, there's a whole nother half to be played, but if I had a vote right now, I would give it to Ben. And his impact just cannot be overstated. I mean, watch some of the games that the Sixers haven't had Ben, and you will see how important he is to their offense, even if he's not shooting threes. He's just been perfect this year after that Harden trade. And the only reason I say A- as opposed to like an A or A plus is because that first month or so he was very off, but he has absolutely turned it up recently. And last but certainly not least, we have Joel Embiid, our other All-Star, who I believe is the MVP of the league right now. Watching Joel has been absolutely incredible this year. I feel literally blessed every night when I get to watch him play for my team. And he's doing everything perfectly. And there was kind of a narrative about him that he took nights off and then didn't show up sometimes. And personally, I never really agreed. I felt, yeah, sure, he might have a night where he doesn't play very well, but I don't really consider that to be like, giving up or not showing up. I just think he had some off nights. But this season, there's less than 5 games in my mind where I can say he wasn't like elite. Like his worst game of the year was like 20 points, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'm pretty sure his lowest scoring game might have been a game against the Hornets where we won by like 30 and he barely played. I mean, he's been unbelievably good, and he really struggled last year because the team around him was built so horribly. It made his life impossible, and you're seeing what it's like when he has that space. And he is still getting doubled, of course, but last year he was getting tripled because no one respected any of our shooters, and now we have multiple players who, even when they're struggling, a guy like Danny Green, even when he's struggling, the teams respect him. You have to guard him, and Joel has gotten much better. Not only have his teammates gotten better at shooting, but he has gotten better at making those passes to them. And I think part of that is that he trusts them. When he sees that Seth is open, he trusts him. When he saw that Josh or Horford was open, I don't think he trusted them, and it forced him to do a little too much. And so obviously, I don't even know if I said this yet, but obviously his grade is an A+. He's the MVP right now, and I think all Sixers fans can agree that when I see Joel dominating like this, it really does make me so unbelievably happy. And I always just think back to those 2 years where we never knew if he was going to even play, and we've reached this point now where he's legitimately one of the best players in the league, and it's just an absolute honor to watch him play. And I cannot wait to watch the second half of the season and the playoffs and continue to see him and this team dominate.